Chapter 2. The rest of the ride was a blur. To think that his parents were secretly working against the Germans. They must be braver than he thought, but if they were caught, he would not even let himself imagine it. As he pedalled furiously, adrenaline making him fly, his mind jumped back and forth between pride and terror. In the end, pride won out. His father and mother were doing the right thing, the noble, courageous, and yes, even the heroic thing. And so were his aunt and uncle. He would not say a word about what he knew, but he would keep making the trips whenever his father or mother asked. That way, it was like he was part of the resistance too. Just before he reached the town, he suddenly remembered the bread with the note had been cut open and partially eaten. How would he conceal the note now? It was essential that he deliver it. He knew that. But he did not want to reveal that he was aware of what was going on. If he did, he was pretty sure his father would not let him make the trips anymore. He got off the bike and paced around it a couple of times. Think, he commanded himself. Think hard. He dug his hands into the pockets of his jacket, hoping something he found inside would inspire him. There was only the penknife, a few marbles, a 10-centimes coin, and a book of matches. How could any of these things help? Wait, he had an idea. But could he make it work? First, he took the partially eaten bread loaf out of the parcel. He had to get rid of it, so he ate another chunk. Then crumbled the rest into tiny pieces as he scattered in the woods. He'd been taught not to waste food, but he told himself it wasn't really being wasted. There were so many birds that would swoop down and make off with the crumbs. When that was done, he looked at the remaining loaf of bread. His aunt and uncle would be expecting to find the note inside. But how could he get it in there? This was the second part of his idea. It was kind of crazy, but it was all he could come up with on the spot. Using his penknife again, he made a small, careful slit in the bottom of the bread and slid the refolded note inside. Then he used the matches to scorch the bread around where it had been cut. After a few minutes, the bottom of the bread turned black, and the slit he made was fully concealed. Now the loaf just looked like it had been in the oven too long. He rewrapped it in the cloth and pedalled the rest of the way until he reached the cottage of his aunt and uncle. "Bonjour," said Marie-Pierre, wiping her hands on her apron as she came out to greet him. She kissed him lightly on both cheeks and ruffled his already messy hair. "I think you grew." "I wish." Marcel stood as straight as he could in an effort to look taller. "No, really, you did." She smiled and then turned to her husband as her husband came out of the house. Uncle Benoit shook his hand and then asked, "What did you bring us today, Marcel?" Marcel couldn't face his uncle as he handed him the parcel, so he looked down and studied the pebbles on the ground. Uncle Benoit took the bread. "Just one loaf?" "Just one." Marcel nearly choked on the words. But then his uncle said, "Fine, we'll have it tomorrow morning." Marcel nodded, relieved that he would not have to see his uncle open the package of bread. If he did, the burnt bottom might arouse his curiosity and lead to more questions. His aunt wanted him to come inside for a while, but Marcel was anxious to go home. Fortunately, he hadn't a ready excuse. "Have a lot of homework," he said. "I should be getting back." "Of course you should," Uncle Benoit said. "School is very important." "Are you studying world history?" "Yes," Marcel said. "Good. Every boy should know something about history." "What about current events?" "Not so much." "He doesn't need to do that in school," said Marie-Pierre. All he has to do is open the newspaper or turn on the radio. You can't get away from the current scene, can you?" "No, I suppose not," said Uncle Benoit. His deep sigh made Marcel feel afraid, especially when he thought about the note his uncle would soon find. After more kisses and a hug from Aunt Marie-Pierre, Marcel got back on his bike. He was not lying about his schoolwork, and he did really want to get home so he'd be able to finish it. His teacher, Mademoiselle Babineau, was pretty nice, but she was also strict. She wouldn't like it if he showed up with an incomplete assignment. Soon he was back at the bridge, and there was the soldier to whom he'd given the panda piece. The soldier saw him too, but instead of calling out for Marcel to stop, he just raised his hand in a sort of greeting. Marcel rode slowly by in case the soldier changed his mind, but he did not. His father had been right. Offering a sweet treat had definitely changed the soldier's attitude. When he got home, his father was in the bakery and his mother was upstairs preparing dinner. But when the meal was ready and on the table, Marcel didn't want it. He'd already eaten that bread on the ride to his aunt and uncle's house, and anyway, his stomach twisted with what he now knew about his parents. "You're not eating," his mother observed. "It's just that I'm thinking about school tomorrow." "Is there a problem?" asked his mother. "Have you finished your homework? You don't want to leave it all till the last minute." Marcel tried to not show his annoyance. She always said that. "Yes," he said. "It's all done. It's not that. That's not it." "Then what?" his father asked. Marcel hesitated. He wanted to say something about the note he'd found, but to put it into words made it all the more real and all the more frightening. "It's nothing," he said. "May I be excused?" Back in his room, he arranged his notebooks and pencils and pens and other supplies in a neat pile on his desk, just like he did every night before school. Maybe if he acted like everything was normal, it would be. But deep inside, Marcel knew that things were not normal in Aucoin, and were not likely to be for some time.